Welcome to Confessions of a CEO, powered by RG. My name is Carl Swansbury, and I'm thrilled today to invite Helen Trueman-Howe onto my podcast. For those of you who've not had the pleasure of meeting Helen, Helen is a Northeast born and bred entrepreneur. We both actually went to the same secondary school together in Sunderland. And since then, Helen has gone on to build a very successful networking business, along with Heels and Brogue, which is a Northeast headquartered 5-year-old recruitment business, which Helen is CEO and founder of. I'm really excited to have Helen on my podcast today, because as a woman in business who wears her heart on her sleeve, who absolutely has no issue with calling a spade, I think she's going to be able to give us a real insight into some of the learning curves that she has had to endure, some of the successes and challenges she's overcome in business, whilst also perhaps sharing with us a little bit about what she has in store for the future. But for sure, regardless of what we cover on this 45-minute podcast, I think we're all in for a treat. Helen, first of all, can I just start by saying I'm genuinely delighted to have you on my Confessions of a CEO podcast today. We've been friends for a long time, but I've never had the chance to sit down with you and have a detailed conversation about your life and, of course, the things you've achieved professionally so far. So thank you for your time.
Brilliant. I'm really pleased to be on here as well, to be quite honest with you. It's been the highlight of the week so far.
Well, it is only Monday morning, so
I know that. We'll see how we get on later on.
That's right. There's plenty of time for this to be trumped, but nonetheless, genuinely delighted to have you with us on the podcast today. So it would be great, actually, as a fellow Mackem, just to go right back to the beginning and find out a little bit more about where you were educated and perhaps what you were able to glean early on during your education when it comes to the things that are important to you and the things that you wanted to achieve at a young age?
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, I think my education was a lot different from your education. So my education was probably streetwise.
Okay. Tell me more about what you mean by streetwise.
Well, in terms of education, wasn't as really important to me when I was at school. And I think where I went to school was a lot different to what it is now. And I didn't obtain my education at school. I obtained my education when I left school later on in life.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I went back and resat everything when I was an adult.
Okay. So in terms of your secondary education, you went to Farringdon Comprehensive School in Sunderland.
I did, yes.
Tell me, GCSE-wise, were you a straight A student?
I'd like to call it youth unbelievable.
Okay. And for those of our viewers who don't understand what that means, how did you do at GCSE?
I did my GCSE by working in a factory, and when I was supposed to be doing my GCSEs, making tampons.
Interesting. And at the time, obviously, were your parents aware of the fact that you weren't knuckling in at school?
Yes.
And did they not have a view as to perhaps where you should be spending your time?
Probably not.
Oh, really? So were they pretty laid back about your education?
They were pretty, I think it was just different. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm obviously older than 30. And I think it was...
Clutching at straws there. I mean, then there is a camera to
we
it.
just end this here.
To be clear, this is not just an audio podcast.
You were sure that this was going to be filtered and I was going to look like a 12-year-old by the end of this.
Wow. We'll do our best.
Right, okay, so clearly I'm not 30. And things were a lot different at our school and in our area. And I think that I enjoyed school. I enjoyed being a child and I enjoyed being at school. But I just didn't enjoy, education wasn't for me, and education's not for everybody. And I think we've developed as people all over the place now, where a lot of people, we recognise now that education doesn't fit into one box.
Nope.
And that everybody is not capable of doing qualifications and being grade A students. They are colourful, they are creative, and they need to have a different approach of learning. And I think that, to be quite honest with you, I did all right sailing through life up until I got to a certain age, and then realised that I needed a qualification to excel. So I went back to school when I was pregnant with my first child, and I was pregnant with my first child at 27, 28. So that's when I went back to school. I had to get some qualifications to be able to get in the university. So then I went on from there and got an education.
And obviously, you've talked there about people perhaps responding differently to classroom teachings. At school, do you think that the teachers were acknowledging the fact that perhaps you were learning differently to others and therefore were giving you an ability to perform despite you not perhaps, being the most studious when it came to classroom learning?
Definitely not. I think it was a completely different era, a completely different time. And if you didn't follow suit, you were just a naughty child.
Oh, really? It's almost like you either do what the system puts in front of you or you fall out of the system.
Effectively, yeah. I'm glad to see that it's changed a lot.
Oh.
It has changed a lot, and we witnessed it, and we've got family members, and a lot of my friends' children have got abilities and inabilities, and they're supported through school. But it's completely changed from what it was years ago.
And obviously your parents knew you were working perhaps whilst not studying. They would have known that perhaps that might have meant you didn't get the GCSEs that perhaps you were capable of. Do you think they were demanding enough of you? Because fundamentally, as a 15-year-old, what do you know, right? Whereas your parents know more. Could they have demanded more of you?
Well, maybe, yeah, probably, yes. Yeah, but again, obviously we'll blame it on EWAs and things like that, but I think we've gone, by the time I was 15, it had gone far too far to be able to get an education. We're talking that the ground should have been obviously set at a very young age.
Right.
Not 15-year-old, because by the time you get to 15-year-old, it's too late, really, if you haven't invested that time in education and your children.
Well, that's right. And it's interesting because you talked about ability, but actually you've since gone back to school. You've since got those qualifications. So what it demonstrates is you have ability, but perhaps at that time you weren't given the support, you weren't given the direction, and actually you weren't being given perhaps the tough love that you needed to appreciate the importance of education at that time.
Yeah, I would say that was a fair statement.
Okay. Understand. So obviously totally...
Mum and Dad, I'm sorry if you see this.
No, but hey, you
failed as parents.
Well, it's not about that, is it? It's more about people see value in different things.
100%.
And perhaps your parents didn't think that academia was everything.
Well, not just that, it's also how they were brought up and their mindset and their educations and their support. And I think it follows down.
It does.
The path doesn't really.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course it does. Okay. So obviously really respect the fact, Helen, that despite not perhaps leaving school with the qualifications that you had the ability to achieve, you decided to go back to school. And of course, you said you did that when you were actually, a mum, which makes it even more difficult. What was it that inspired you to go back to school?
To be quite honest with you, at the time, it's because I was unemployable. So I was thinking, right, I've always wanted to better myself, but never thought I had the support, to be honest with you. That was probably right. Didn't have the support, didn't have the belief that I could do it. I mean, we've only got 45 minutes, so, we need a psychiatrist just to understand where that comes from, do you know what I mean?
That's right.
But at the end of the day, like, fast forward, I was in a situation where I wanted to do better, and I also realised that I was running out of time to do better as well. So at 28, I was like literally on a path to nowhere really, and I was having my first child. So I thought at the time, nobody's going to employ a 28-year-old pregnant woman, and especially not a 20-year pregnant woman with what I've achieved so far. I wasn't going to get a good job. So I thought, right, this is a good time to re-educate myself while I'm pregnant. So that's where it started. Wow. And then I drove forward. I also worked while I was at university as well. And then before it wasn't meant to happen, let's say accident on camera. But then I got pregnant again with my second child while I was still at university.
Wow.
So I got that out of the way completely. So there's been no more children, and will be no more children now. I'm complete. And then I went full throttle in getting where I am now.
Gosh, okay. There's a few things in there. Just if you don't mind, just ask a pretty important question. Obviously, the person I know is a highly confident, very conversational, very certain person. But of course, you've just talked about the fact that you want always those things. What has, from a personality perspective, had the greatest impact? Because you are now not the person you used to be, clearly. How and when did that change? I
think I started, well, we all have, if you've heard of imposter syndrome, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah, and we still get it now. I don't know if you do, but sometimes I wake up in the morning.
Every day.
Yeah, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I think, oh my God, they're going to find out that I'm a fraud. I can't do this. I can't do this shit. I can't do it. So I was trying not to experiment. I've just done it straight away. I can't do it. And then other days you wake up and you remember who you are. I think that maybe there's a lot of factors to why I didn't have self-belief and I didn't excel and I didn't have the confidence and, to the public and to like peer children, I look like a confident, badass girl who would take on the world, but that was probably just a mask.
Yeah, a bit of a front.
A bit of a front. And you know what? If you've got to be completely honest and brutally honest, we all put a front on. Every single person. And if anybody will sit in front of you and tell you that they're nailing life and that they're completely honest with who they are and completely honest with who they are to the public, I would say they were full of shit. Would that be a fair statement?
You know what, it's interesting because actually I personally, to answer that, Helen, I don't feel like I put a front on because actually whether you know me in business, out of business, whether it's on a Sunday afternoon at home with a family, whether it's a podcast like this, you get the same person. But of course, I think the point you're making, which is slightly different, is clearly, you know, I would not choose to overshare information because sometimes that doesn't do you good. So if that's a front, then I think you're right. People have a desire not to overshare, but I don't think that's a front. I think it's about actually being quite sort of wise because information in the wrong hands can be dangerous.
I totally agree. But to answer to your question is, I'm exactly who I need to be right now. And it took a lot of years to get to the person that I truly am and learn a lot about myself over the years as well. And you still learn about yourself. And I think that you can change the person you are by the environment that you surround yourself with, the people that you surround yourself with.
Yep.
And the company that you keep.
Totally. Yep. And does that mean over the years you have chose consciously to keep different company? Have you rid yourself of perhaps company that once upon a time you would have kept, but now you don't think it's good for you?
100%.
Oh, really? Talk to me about that, how you do that.
Over time, you lose friends, you lose people in your life, you lose acquaintances, you lose people that are in your life. I feel that in the past, I've surrounded myself, I think I've always had this need to be liked and accepted. Wherever it comes from. Again, we've only got 45 minutes, so we need to move on. But we've always found that need to be accepted and loved and liked. And, and sometimes you find that in places where you shouldn't look for it.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you get older and you have life experiences, you meet new people, you put yourself in new situations, your life changes, you lose the people that you shouldn't have been involved with. There's been people, and I'm not just talking about relationships, I'm talking about friends as well, and people who I think you're close to and friends, the only one that were really, really happy when you were at your low point because you're a fun person to be around and, they want you in your life, but that actually, when you look back, you see that them friends actually didn't want you to succeed or be any better. They just wanted you in that little bubble that you're in. And I've been fortunate enough, So when I went and got my degree and I got my qualification, because I do talk about this all the time actually, because my first job that I got was with a company called Concept Group, with Stu Hunter was my boss. And I mean, I do thank them all the time. We do talk about this, and I will send them a link to have a look at this. But I went to university and then couldn't get a job I got a job, but then the job that I was getting wasn't a university job. So I went back in time and then I was on minimum wage and I was working all the hours God sends, and I was like, right, this is not what I signed up for. I'm good at speaking to people, I'm good at sales, I'm good at communicating. So I took myself out of there and then I took myself to somewhere called Pareto Law, which was down the country. And it was a bit like the Hunger Games. So that's the only way I can describe it. So I was a load of these kids from graduates in suits, and a lot of them were from like well-to-do families and all that sort of stuff. And then there was me, my last chance dance. I mean, I'm obviously just over 30 now, but yeah. It was like, so I was probably the oldest there and I did really well. So they were like, right, you did really, really well. And then, there's jobs in London. I went, well, you've just wasted my time because I've got kids at home and my support network's at home. I can't move to London. So then they didn't tell me that there was 2 jobs in the Northeast. So then I came home and I looked at this Pareto Law and I looked at who they were connected with. And one was Concept Group, and which was Managed Print Solutions, and one was Caterpillar. So I contacted Concept Group and went for an interview. And they had young graduates there who had the world ahead of them. And then they had me, who was very honest and brutal. So then they interviewed us and basically, like, I'm be careful in case any HR issues, but on the right side of old, not young, what did I want? And I was like, listen, if you want somebody that's fresh out of university, who hasn't got life experience, who probably wouldn't work out, go and employ them. If you want somebody where this is their last chance to make something of themselves, then obviously give us a call, right? And that's a situation we're at. So they give me my first opportunity and chance, and I'll be forever grateful for that because that allowed me to enter the business world and then move on and move up and like obviously get where I am. And then on the top of that was meet fantastic people who I've still got relationships with and friendships, and they're now clients and friends, and some of them go on holiday with, there was your life. But when you're meeting fantastic people and keeping the right people around you and making sure that you're looking negativity out, negative people as well, because battery drainers can literally ruin your life.
Oh, mood hoovers are the worst.
That's the new one. I'm going to use that one, mood hoovers.
Yeah. And we've all got people we spend time with for one reason or another who just zap you, so give nothing back.
Something you have to because the family. But you know, not you, brother.
Careful, are you talking about the in-laws there, Helen? I'm just kidding. I'm being...
Yeah, but sometimes you do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, sometimes you have to. But in normal life, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do that at all, do you know what I mean? You would just get rid of them and you would move on. But you do have to obviously put yourself through that situation. But I can say now that I make sure and that I surround myself by fantastic people and good energy. And I think that creates opportunities.
It does.
Creates situations and life's just got better and better and better and better and better.
Yeah. Just a question, because it links to this point around sort of being around people who are additive, who are positive, who want to see you succeed, because I absolutely agree with that. Just to ask, you mentioned that sort of when you were younger, perhaps you'd developed a bit of a network of people who actually almost thrived on you not succeeding, almost thrived on you not getting on.
Yeah.
What do you think they got out of that? Why did your friends at that time not want Helen to do good? Because that doesn't seem to make sense.
Well, I think that's, do you know what, we'll just take pity on them to say that they had their own issues that was left unresolved. And I think that, you know, they'd have to answer that question for you. I've got no idea. But I think that people who have bad experiences, bad trauma, bad situations, unhappy people have their own issues that they've got to work through, and they project that onto other people.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. And, you know, it's important that you acknowledge that, isn't it? Because people can't help you until they help themselves first.
Exactly.
And whilst it's great to be a good friend or a family member or colleague, fundamentally, you can't be responsible for other people's happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
You can support them as they develop, but fundamentally, people have got to be happy with themselves before they can be additive to you.
And it took me right all in 30 years old to realise that.
We believe that you are 30 years of age, Helen, for sure. We're convinced now. We're convinced.
30 years plus 14.
So obviously you mentioned that, you know, you went to uni, you got the qualifications, you got on the graduate scheme, and of course someone gave you that first opportunity to demonstrate just how worthy you, of course, have always been. For brevity purposes, I'm now going to move forward a little.
Move forward.
Obviously employed, some great employers, you know, getting a lot of experience. What was it that encouraged you to start thinking about setting up your own business? You know, when did you start thinking, you know what, maybe I should be doing this for myself?
To be honest with you, I can tell you exactly when it was. I never thought I say good enough, because, you know, everybody's good enough to do anything they want to do and when they set their mind to it. So careful about how I come across there. It's always the scary bit about being self-employed, but also I didn't know what I want. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. At the end of the day, we evolve and we change, and you know, we can evolve and change time again.
Totally.
And, you know, the world's our oyster to do whatever we want to do. But whatever has driven me from being a kid to, you know, whatever issues, whatever inability, whatever, when I got to a certain point, I don't feel like it was ever enough. I'm ADHD, by the way, which you can clearly see, right? I don't need a certificate to tell you that, right? And I'm learning a lot about myself with that as well. And obviously development and how to deal with things and situations. And obviously know a lot about myself as a child as well. So when I was working and developing, I like to be busy. I like to have a million things on the go. My brain needs it. I thrive on it. I'm hungry for it. And I wasn't enough. So I was working, and then I set up the networking because I needed to be busier. So that was initially where the name of the company comes in. So it was Heels Network. And then I'd set that up, and I was going for that. And I met some exceptional people, Cheryl Lee and Donna Elliott. Do you know them?
I do, indeed.
Yeah, and they came to my events, and they started off doing, obviously, talks at my events. And it was them that was saying, basically, get your finger out your arse, Helen, that you need to be self-employed. And I was like, oh, I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. That's the unknown, isn't it? And so, again, you meet people in life that add value to your life, and you meet people at the right time, I think, as well. People serve a purpose in your life.
And do you, I'm sorry to interrupt you, do you put that down to fate, or is this just fluke?
I believe in a little bit better. I believe in a lot of fate, but I also believe that you can also make your own fate. So changes, and obviously the people I'm surrounding myself with, Like if I was just going to be behind the back of our comp and not go to school and stuff like that, I wouldn't have met these fantastic people.
That's right. You've improved your odds of success, haven't you?
Well, exactly. Do you know what I mean? So it's a numbers game, isn't it?
Yeah.
So by putting myself in front of them, like great people, and surrounding me, so opportunities come up. There's people say things at the right time and encourage you to do things. And then obviously COVID happened. Obviously that probably helped. Because at the end of the day, we were in a situation where, we thought zombies were walking past the house and, we didn't think we were going to survive and all that, because we can have the age-old debate about COVID, but we'll not go there because we've only got 45 minutes and I think we've only got 30 minutes now. But it gives us an opportunity. So you're sitting there, everyone's doesn't know if they're going to be employed, losing their jobs. And we had to literally I hate using the word reinvent the wheel, but reinvent the wheel and say, right, what we're going to do, this is a perfect time, if any, to start doing it.
That's right.
So then at that moment, so one of my friends and co-founders who obviously has got the Northeast Network, Andrew, because we set that years ago, we were sitting there and he helped me a lot. A Team Valley group that helped me a lot to set up the business up and did my website, not everything that I needed to do. And basically when I was like survival mode, and I think I work very well in survival mode. When I've got a gun at my head, that's when I work best. So that's the way I can describe it.
And just to go back a little to Northeast Network, because not all of our viewers will know what Northeast Network is and what the purpose of that network is. So could you just give us an insight, please?
Yeah, so Northeast Network. So initially I had Heels and Bros Network, but I wanted to have a better, I'm saying a better network, a more respected brand, should we say. So, and obviously have different clientele coming in and open up, because it was great. Obviously Heels Network was fantastic. I met some brilliant women in business, but we wanted to, obviously we didn't know where we wanted to go with it, but we want to have different industries coming in and open it up. So what we did was, initially there was a group of us that set up, because we wanted to be on the valley, there's loads of business here, we want to conquer the valley, and that was initially what we wanted to do. So we set up Team Valley Networking, and then quite quickly, it was in COVID as well, so all on Teams, when we had to get up in the morning and get our posh clothes on at the top, being our gym jams at the bottom. Do you know what I mean? And
So making an effort to do it.
yeah, let's still do it.
To see you not in your pajamas, it really is.
Do it. But yeah, so we did that initially and we set up Team Valley, but then we realised that we were missing a trick because other people wanted to join.
Right,
But what we were doing is we wanted to have one person from each category, so we weren't oversaturating business. Oh. So that's what we did initially with that one. So then we started opening groups in different areas. And then we thought, right, well, what we want to do is we've met some fantastic people, got a huge network with people. We've got an army of networkers now in the Northeast, and that's helped me in business as well. So whatever we need in business, we've got somebody that can help us out. So in the relationship that you build. But then what we did was networking's not for everybody. And 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, there is some nutters that do that. And one of them is not for everybody.
No.
It's not for everyone. And sitting around a table once a week or once a fortnight, standing up and doing the same old 6 seconds, it's not for everybody. But it is for some people. So therefore, we try to conquer the networking market in offering a variety of networking. So that's what we did. So we've got quite a few. We've got monthly ones, so you don't have to see each other every week. And I've only seen you a week ago. I've got nothing to say. So we've got monthly ones in football clubs. So we've got Gateshead Football Club. We've got South Shields Football Club. We've got Lumley Castle, which is once every 2 or 3 months. So whenever David feels like putting an event in. So we've got one at the end of February, and we've got some fantastic people with that. That's 90 businesses that come.
Wow.
So 90 businesses, and we've got business owners come. We've got some brilliant people. Alfie Joey's our compare on that one.
Awesome.
And it's a great setup. We have food. We support local businesses, and that's on a Friday as well. So it's usually the end of each quarter. So everyone's just want to let the hair down, have a good time. It's also a networking event. And then we've got our bi-weekly ones as well. So people can sit around a table every fortnight. So and it's been part of a business community. We want to do business with people, and we wanted to create opportunities where people could meet, because not everybody is confident. Not everybody will just put themselves out there, and some people need the opportunities created for them. But through Northeast Network, I've met some amazing people, and I probably wouldn't be in the situation I am in now had I not had that support. So it has been brilliant.
And I appreciate you'll not know this specifically, but again, just for the viewers' benefit, how many businesses per annum would you say attend one of the networking events that your business
puts come on, I did tell you I didn't go to school. Let's have a thing. You could, if you can count for me, God, I was like, think. Per annum, well, we have 90 businesses that come. I want to get my calculator out here. Honest to God, I told him about Youth Unbelievable at school, and this is what he does to us.
Just roughly.
I'd say about 1,000. Well, more than 1,000. It'll be more than 1,000 because we have the Populongs in Newcastle as well.
Well, either way, I mean, that's incredible, isn't it?
Different businesses, yeah.
As you say, small businesses need to meet other small businesses. And hey, you know, if you can do that in an enjoyable way and become friends with suppliers, customers, it's only going to be additive. So really appreciate why you founded the business. You mentioned that during COVID was the time you decided to set up your own business outside of the networking business, which is fascinating because a lot of people during COVID were surviving, were probably head down, socks up, or were in the garden enjoying the summer weather, certainly not setting up a new business. Just talk to me about why during COVID, when the world was about to end, you thought now's a brilliant time to set up my new recruitment business.
I think there was a milestone there as well, to be quite honest with you. So before COVID, just before, me and my husband went off to get married.
Awesome.
And we basically just through New York, two of us, not anybody else. We got married and then we went on our honeymoon in Mexico. And my old employer, because I was working on the network, and obviously I'm erratic as anything and I need loads of things to be working on, was focused on their business. Only wanted to be focused on their business. Actually did me a favour, did quite well with them, and had a conversation with me, went out for a drink, and they were, Helen, what do you want out of life? And I was like, challenging me on my own bullshit. Like, what the hell's that?
I tried to ask a silly question.
Like, you've literally knocked me off my perch there. What do I want out of life? Right? And I was like, went off to get married, and I was like, thinking about it, dwelling on it.
Good.
And wanting to move on and like wanting to do other things, and then having to think like an adult, think about what do I want out of life here, because they've asked me a question because I'm doing all this stuff, and they asked me I'm doing all this stuff and I'm busy all the time, but why am I doing it?
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, well, subconsciously you've called me out on my own crap, and I need to have a think about that. So I pondered over it, and then, you know, I think subconsciously I wasn't happy where I was at, but I didn't have the balls to do anything about it.
Yep.
And maybe I would never have, I don't know. So then I went to work one day, I didn't know what was going on, so we were coming back from our honeymoon and we were wondering why everybody was wearing masks, because we were just like living in our own little bubble, and we were travelling and all that, and I was like, what's all the chaos at the airport? And then we come back, and then I went back to work, and as soon as I got back to work, we got locked down.
Right, okay.
Right? So then that gave me a chance to think about the bullshit and to think about what I want to do in my life. And then I thought, well, do you know what? I'm not happy, and I need to be happy, and I don't know how I'm going to do that, but this is the perfect time to go self-employed. I'd spoke to my husband before this, and I said, I think I want to be self-employed. And he went, I don't think you should do that, Helen. And I went, no, I think I should, and I think I'm going to do it. And he was worried, and he was scared about the financial implications.
Sure.
Which you will be. And
also, family, absolutely.
And when you're with somebody, you've got to consider their feelings as well as your own.
Of course you do.
And look at all the other factors, because if it goes wrong, which it can go wrong at any time, any point. If it goes wrong, they're going to have to take the burden of that as well.
That's right.
So if COVID happened, I was like, well, I've got a job now. So technically this is the time. So I just worked, locked myself away a lot in my kitchen, and we just moved into a new build and would renovate the back room. And my husband had a games room, briefly. And then I'm like, Joe, get your toys out with there. You had Walking Dead toys all over the place. And collectors
that's awesome.
You know, look, it was briefly for him. And I literally emptied it all out, and it was the first Heels and Brogues office.
Oh my God.
So then, because obviously it already had a networking company called Heels and Brogues, and I already had a massive following. I mean, some people still think I sell shoes. Do you know what I mean? But the odd ones, you know, it was going to happen. But I had such a big following, I had to call it Heels and Brogues, and you know, it worked well.
Totally. Well, there's loads of value locked up in the name of the business. So it made sense for it to travel, didn't it?
But what was really good is, because of the relationships I built over the years, so my husband used to hate us getting out of bed and going out at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I said, one day this will pay off.
Yep.
And he didn't understand it at all. And I was like, one day this will pay off. And I was networking all the time and for the companies and everything else. And then on the time that I needed that network, I rang people and I was like, right, listen, I've sold you printers, I've sold you cakes, whatever I sold you, right? Do you trust us? Yes. Will you follow us? Because this is what I want to do now. And they did, and I got clients straight away. So
it's interesting, the first question you asked those individuals you'd done business with before, do you trust me? Why is that the question you asked first?
Because of
around technical capability?
Because I was going to tell them I was going to sell them something completely different from what I've sold them before. So therefore I asked them if you trust to have that relationship. And they've never been questioned about, obviously, what I was capable of doing for my clients. I've always went above and beyond for my clients. Doesn't matter what product I've sold them or what I've done. And the clients have kind of followed through.
Yeah.
So,
and the point you're making there is any successful relationship in business or out of business is based on trust. I guess it's the point, isn't it?
Everything's based on trust.
Yeah, totally agree. Just to ask, so in the first sort of few weeks of COVID, when you were starting to ask yourself the big question, what do I want out of my life? Did you resign, or actually did your employer ask you to move on because they were nervous about cost base and COVID and how they were going to fare?
No, we all got furloughed for a very long time. So initially, we didn't get furloughed initially.
Yes, well, we didn't know there was a furlough scheme.
We didn't know what was going on, did we?
Right.
We just got told to leave because obviously there was...
Oh, really? So they asked you to leave the company?
Everybody did. So basically,
Oh, wow.
so everybody said, well, they really tried hard to keep doors open.
Oh.
They really did, right? So they tried hard. They were like, right, okay, let's see what we can do and then try what options is it going to be. And between the management team, they were like, right, let's option B. And option B is like, everybody just needs to go home because obviously the world's ending. That's what we thought, didn't they? They didn't know what was going on. I didn't think that we were going to see something like this in my lifetime.
And sorry, just to be clear, when you say go home pre-COVID and pre-furlough scheme, do you mean they were effectively saying we can no longer employ?
So making everybody redundant.
Right.
Everybody.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so it wasn't for a long time. So obviously I'd already thought, well, it's time to go self-employed really, isn't it?
Right. And here's a question, and of course you probably can't actually answer this, but if you hadn't been made redundant in the early part of 2020 due to COVID, the worst ever pandemic that we have seen in our life, do you think you would have set up your own business? Do you think you would have woke up and had that eureka moment, or do you think this push helped you?
I think the push helped us 100%. I'd love to say that I did it off my own back and that I woke up one day and found my testicles and said, you know what, I'm going to be self-employed and take whatever's coming to us. But that really, really gave me the push. And I think a lot of businesses set up in COVID. A lot of businesses.
Same reasons.
Same reasons.
Yeah.
Same reasons. And it made people think, God, you know what, like, also that, people haven't really got control of their own lives.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing, isn't it? Because I think up until COVID, certainly in our lifetime, we probably thought we could control most things because everything was predictable. We had parameters that we had to work within. But COVID was just a complete rug being pulled. And what we knew, no longer we knew. You couldn't see your family and friends. You weren't allowed to socialize. You had to work from home. It was just, for the first time, a real reminder of the fact that the things you spend most of your time thinking about aren't important. And actually the big things you can't control. So roll with
Exactly. How we're going to feed ourselves, how we're going to clothe ourselves. Is the water going to be contaminated? We didn't know what was going on. And I think that as well, in COVID, I just went absolutely nuts, to be honest with you. And I was like horsing my husband down outside because he was
Oh, well, you're a real anxious person during COVID.
Well, I'm a little bit OCD, right? So he was classed as a key worker.
Oh.
So he was in all the care homes.
Oh.
Living his best life, like not being like he was just going out and working his backside off constantly. He was coming in. I was like, take your clothes off, I have my rubber gloves on, and I was like going up the shower, and I was absolutely really, really obsessed with this. So it affected people really, really bad. But what I didn't realise is how it actually affected the kids as well.
Yes, totally.
My youngest was only little,
Yes.
and they were telling them that you can't touch people, you can't hug people, and then we're allowed our bubbles. Go on, oh, your cousin.
Confusing for kids.
I've never seen human beings for years. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Joe Wicks has been my main point of company, and you're asking us that to hug somebody that last week I was going to die by hugging them. Like literally, this is screwing me up.
No, well, it's funny because I think we've quickly forgotten, but actually that's what we were doing, right?
That's what we were doing.
Odd set of circumstances.
It was.
Meeting in the garden at the end of the street. And
Oh God.
all odd. So to anyone who's watching this podcast, who's employed, who does a job they enjoy, but perhaps thinks there's something more they want to go and achieve, be it, a new profession, be it setting up their own business. What advice would you give them? Because you've just said yourself, it's easy to sort of fall into a rut. What advice would you give the person who thinks they've got something more, but just hasn't got the confidence or will to go pursue it?
I would just say do it. Like literally, your life's never going to change. You're never going to know if you don't do it. And you know what? If you do it, it doesn't work. You can always go back and get a job. You can always do something else, but at least you've tried.
But wouldn't that, because that would be my sort of instinctive response, Helen. But when I've had that conversation with people before, their response has been, well, yeah, easier said than done. First of all, I've got a mortgage. Secondly, I've got 2 kids to feed. And thirdly, I don't want to block my CV by giving it a go, it not working, that equals failure. Would I actually be able to sort of pick up where I left off? So what's your advice to that person?
I think that you would be able to pick off at the end of the day, as long as you can explain it within the CV, as long as you're not a serial setting of companies, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, obviously I'm a recruiter. So the first thing I do when I look at a CV is I look at somebody who's trying to set their own business up.
Good.
And a lot of my clients and hiring managers have actually had their own businesses for years.
Interesting.
And then they've like, you know what, it's that much bloody hard work, having your staff and all the bills and all the overheads. Now managing somebody else's company doing exactly the same thing because I get a guaranteed salary, I get guaranteed wage, but I've tried. I've tried and I've done it. So I would say yes, at the end of the day, if you're somebody that just changes your job every single week and, you know, you want to be an air hostess one week, or you want to be a self-employed caterer the next week, or then you want to be a self-employed IT company, then that's going to affect your chances of getting employment later on. But if you've really got a genuine reason why you want to get up and I want to try this is what I want to do, and if it doesn't work, then I can always go back and do something and explain it away, and like that's absolutely fine. But you know what? You could be dead tomorrow. I would say go bloody try it.
Yeah. I think it's a really important point you've made. And actually, when we hire people into our businesses, or when you interview a candidate for a client of yours, you know, you're right. You know, you're looking at, can that person technically do the job? But beyond that, it's, you know, have they got a personality? Do they have a network? Have they demonstrated that they are willing to put their head above the parapet? And these are all things that perhaps someone who's set up a business will be able to demonstrate more so than someone who's worked in a big corporate at a mid-manager level for tens and tens of years.
100%. And you can teach a job to anybody. You kind of teach a person to be a person, basically. You can't, you know.
I agree.
So as long as you've got that person with that drive, you can mold a great person into any job, as long as they've got the will, personality, the drive to do it.
Indeed. And you mentioned, of course, your now business, which is perhaps where you spend most of your time, is a recruitment business based here in the Northeast.
Yeah.
This year, you're celebrating its 5th birthday.
Yeah, so this year will be its 5th birthday, yeah.
Awesome.
So it's very exciting. There's been, and don't get me wrong, if I was going to sit here and just say it's been absolutely a pleasure and a dream the whole way through, I'd be absolutely lying from me back end. It hasn't been. It's been hard. It's been, honestly, some days I'm like, where's the nearest bridge? Right, honestly, it's been ups and downs, peaks and troughs, but it's rewarding. There's been sad times, there's been crazy, exciting times, but you know, it's all part of having a business, and it's all part about learning about business and making mistakes, because not everybody's perfect. We make mistakes.
And in the last 5 years, what's the biggest mistake that you have made, which you would be willing to share on this podcast?
Do you know what? I would say our mistake's a strong word, because everything that's happened has got me where I am today.
There you go.
So every single thing has been a welcome learning curve, I'll say, because, you know, staff come and go, because being in your industry, it's not easy, right? You've got to be you require a certain kind of person. You expect of a certain kind of person to be able to fit in with your dream and your business, right? So at the end of the day, not everybody's fit for recruitment. So you go through pits and falls with hiring your own staff, because, you know, you're blindsided by your own staff and your own dream, your own company. But every single place that I've been, every person that's come into my life, who's been involved with Heels and Brokes, who's been part of the journey, has had its purpose to get me where I am now. So learning curves, we'll call them, not mistakes, Carl.
Well, I'm using your words back to you. So what would you say has been genuinely the steepest of those learning curves? You know, what is the one thing you look back and think, wow, like that was more hellish than I ever would have?
Yeah, just jumping into business with people that everybody's not on the same path, you know.
So do you mean having shareholders whereby there's not alignment?
Yes. Yeah, and I think that happens in a lot of companies. It does, but yeah, when I think I've learned from that. So, and it's all.
What have you taken from that then?
What have I taken from that? And just to be obviously more transparent when we're going into business deals, and you do your education, do your research, make sure everybody is aligned in what's going to happen with the business going forward. It's been a valuable lesson, but it's also been what I've needed to learn.
Totally respect that. And when you look back at the last sort of 4.5, nearly 5 years, what would you say is the thing you are proudest of within the business? I'm
proud that I've getting where I am now. I'm proud that we've got a very well-respected company and trusted clients. I'm proud of, like, I've just been with a client there that says the best recruitment firm that they've ever worked with in 20 odd years.
There you are.
And that, you know, they love the fact that I'm brutally honest, and there's no airs and graces on us, and that what you see is what you get in any environment. And you know, I went, oh God, that's lovely. That, like, it's brought a tear to my eye, if I'm honest with you. So I like the relationship that we've got. I'm proud to say that. Obviously, it's not just about owning your own business. I'm proud and happy of all the people that's involved. I don't see the business as just me. I'm just on the tools, me with everybody else.
Yep.
So I'm just the same as everybody else. I will do whatever we need to do. We'll work together to all create a common goal. So, and you know, I'm excited for the next 5 years.
Awesome. And you mentioned that when you decided in March 2020 to set up your own business, you know, your husband thought you were slightly insane and was probably selfishly a little bit cheesed off about giving up his man cave. If he was here now and I asked him the question, so obviously Helen's been in business now for 5 years, how do you think it's worked out? What would he say to me?
He would say, you know, I'm glad that she told us off all the time. I'm glad that she got out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning to go network. He gets it now. He gets it now. He's part of our life. He's part of the business's life, and he totally gets it. So it's basically I was right because I'm his wife, and it's my job to be right.
And I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm sure you were right, Helen, for sure. And there's something you said there which is interesting. I'd like your view on it. So a lot of people who are highly successful in business would say that actually life and business is one in the same. It's a lifestyle. No, to have your own business is just a lifestyle choice. Do you have that view? You sort of implied it there, but do you have that view?
Yes, I do. I think it's one and the same, to be quite honest with you. And it's a lifestyle. So yeah, I do.
Got it. Obviously, we started the podcast by talking a little bit about, you know, your time at Farringdon Comprehensive School in Sunderland and the fact that perhaps, you know, you weren't always doing additional studies.
I was doing additional studies, it just weren't educational.
That's right. Additional legal studies is what I should have said. So this is a tough question, and there's two parts to it. But I'd love to get your honest answer if I can. If you could meet Helen when Helen was 15, and you could sit opposite yourself and see the person you were then, what would you say to you?
I'd probably tell her that she's going to be okay and she's enough, and that she will get there, and just to keep on going, work hard, and don't worry about anybody else that's around you.
And the linked part is, why do you think that Helen thought she wasn't enough?
Because of the people she surrounded herself with, the environment that she was in.
Got it. Conscious that our time on this podcast, at least, Helen, is coming to an end, but I've just got one final question. Obviously, this year, big 5th birthday celebration for your business. And if there is a party, I better be on the guest list.
Definitely.
The question is, if we meet in this room 5 years from now, what will the 10th year for your business look like, and what will we be celebrating then?
There's a lot of things happening at the moment. There are a lot of growth plans happening at the moment. We're doing a massive rebrand now. Okay. We've just took on more staff. What is the plan then? I don't know. Maybe it's a party in Dubai, hopefully.
I'm certainly coming to the 10th day script on that.
Well, fingers crossed. Yeah, let's just work really hard for the next 5 years and see where we get.
Totally right. Well, Helen, can I just say genuinely, it's been really lovely to spend some time with you. I think you're very honest, very candid, very inspiring outlook. Certainly has had an impact on my view, actually. Not only a view, but of what it takes to be successful in business. And I'm sure our viewers likewise. So massive thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have Helen Trueman-Howe on my Confessions of a CEO podcast today. It was really interesting to hear a little bit more about Helen's upbringing, why she perhaps didn't do as well as she could have done at school and in her early education. Nurture or nature is the question. It was also really interesting to hear a little bit more about how Helen went about going from employee to founding her own business on the back of having been made redundant in the early part of COVID. For sure, it's interesting to hear that push, the redundancy, is all Helen needed to actually see the positive and to have the confidence to set up her own business, which of course is now this year 5 years old. How she was able, on the back of that adversity, to actually decide she wanted to become a better person. She wanted to realize her full potential. And as a consequence, clearly, she's gone on to achieve such great things. It's been inspiring to spend some time with Helen. She's a phenomenal person, a great mum, a fantastic wife to her husband, and a great friend to me and everybody else who knows Helen. So thank you for spending some time with us today on my podcast, Helen. For sure, I hope our viewers take an awful lot from this podcast. If there's 3 things I'm taking away, It's about the importance of being very honest about who you are, the people you want to spend your time with, making sure that you only spend time with those who are additive to you, not draining. The other thing that for sure I'll take away from this podcast is the importance of having fun in business. Life is short, take it not for granted. And then the final thing that definitely I'll take away from this podcast today is the importance of being proud of where you were born and bred. I'm from Sunderland, as is Helen, and for sure the one thing that Sunderland creates, as well as a great football team, is people who have personality. You've been watching Confessions of a CEO powered by RG. My name is Carl Swansbury. If you'd like to download this podcast or any other podcast in our Confession series, then you can do that from anywhere you already download your podcasts. But as a final reminder, this is Confessions of a CEO powered by RG. My name is Carl Swansbury, and I really look forward to seeing you on future podcasts.